Madam President, officers and members of the Detroit Rotary, I'm very grateful for the warm welcome you've given me here today, and for the welcome I've received from the city's civic, business, and community leaders. I really look forward to sharing this welcome with my crew, and even more so to sharing my crew with you. On every ship I've been on before, and I've been on 5 prior to now. One of the first things I've done upon checking aboard is to look around me and to identify the key players, not just by rank or by training, but those key individuals who technicians, leaders, natural leaders, deck plate leaders, whose contributions are essential to the day-to-day running of the ship. And if you know anything about my ship, a littoral combat ship, we have a very small crew that focuses on quality rather than quantity, and on a crew of highly trained sailors, and every one of the crew members I've met so far is that kind of key player. So I really look forward to the opportunity to share that crew with you. I like to think of Detroit as being not just my ship and my crew's ship, but your ship as well. I've got just a little bit about my background. I've done one pre-commissioning or new construction tour before, a destroyer in Pascagoula, Mississippi, and I've also done a tour in the Littoral Combat Ship office in Naval Surface Forces Pacific, so I bring a little bit of background to this job. A little bit about the ship. It's the 6th ship named in honor of this great city. It's a Littoral Combat Ship, which is a new class of small, inexpensive, fast, modular combatant. It's built with different mission packages, so we can interchange the different capabilities on the ships, as well as introduce new technologies without having to design a new ship from the keel up. Little overview of the ship background. First of all, it is being built up in Marinette, Wisconsin, just about 8 hours away. It's 46% complete right now. Got a picture here of the superstructure being welded on, which is a fairly significant and recent development in the ship's construction progress. The next major milestone as we go through the pre-commissioning process is christening, when the ship formally receives its name. It'll be christened by Mrs. Barbara Levin, the ship's sponsor, that'll take place coinciding with the launch of the ship into the Marinette River up in Wisconsin. Tentatively January of 15. One thing I ask though, as I go through these different milestones, they're subject to change. They're set well above the ship or cruise level, and they do tend to change frequently. I'd like to just want to let everybody know that from the beginning, that both the construction and ceremonial milestones are subject to change, but something that's not subject to change is the rapport that I'd like to build with the city and its people. The next major milestone, which I hope will take place here in Detroit, is commissioning. That's tentatively scheduled for January of 2016. However, the decision on where commissioning will be held rests with the Secretary of the Navy. There's a process that we need to go through to get that selected, but I think between the fact that Detroit is on our track out of the Great Lakes and our namesake city, it's a pretty natural first choice for our commissioning city. So I look forward to working with you and your community to plan that key milestone. Little brief overview of our first year. Once we sail through the Great Lakes, we'll sail around via the Atlantic Ocean, the Panama Canal, and up the Pacific to our home port of San Diego. We'll go through a testing process of approximately 4 months, when we'll put the entire ship, its engineering plant, and its combat systems through their paces. We'll take everything that we learned then, as well as any new upgrades that have come out in the ship class in the interim. We'll have a shipyard period, and we'll follow that up with about 6 months of training prior to our ultimate milestone, which is making the ship deployment ready. So something that I found with my previous tour with a pre-commissioning ship is the importance as we build essentially a crew and an esprit de corps from scratch, is that our interaction on the previous ship with the sponsor, with everybody associated with the namesake city, was essential to building the foundation for the crew's team spirit. So I look forward to working with all of you to do that. And I'd like to open the floor right now to any questions. Sir.
Yeah, Bob Harper. I was in the Navy back in Vietnam, and a lot of friends and stuff like that before we came and started to build cars. Now we don't build cars here no more.
Well, thank you for your service, sir.
Yeah, good. We had like 400 people on my ship. We were all quality. What do you mean this quality over quantity BS?
What I'm talking about, sir, is the fact that rather than on your ship, you had the opportunity when you reported aboard to receive extensive on-the-job training, as I did when I reported to my first ship. We have so few people on our ship that without that opportunity, we send people to a much longer schools pipeline beforehand. What we also do in order to facilitate a deployment rotation is to take everyone who's, we have a concept called 3-2-1. 3 crews, 2 ships, every one of those, one of every pair, every such pair is deployed at any given time when this process is mature. So when the crew is off the hull, they'll go through their additional training while the other hull is forward. And what that allows is, whereas the current average for ships in the fleet right now is that 4.5 ships are required in total for every one that's deployed. That will enable us to deploy 1 LCS for every 2 that are in the fleet.
Del Master with the Optical Times.
Yes, sir.
In your speech when you first started, you mentioned this being an inexpensive class of Navy warship. However, everything that I've read up to this point seems like a sinkhole of money going into a warcraft that is incapable of all these improvements that were being sold to the general public. How can you explain inexpensive?
With every that's a great question. Thank you very much. With every first-of-class ship, you have to consider all the research and development improvements. These ships were built. Part of the very reason they're inexpensive is that in comparison with some other classes of ship that we're building right now, we rather than we went through an accelerated development timeline where we took the ship, we got it. What we in the Navy like to call a 90% solution, and we sent it forward on a series of gradually increasing op-tempo deployments, starting with some counter-drug operations during the first ship, Freedom, sail around to San Diego, followed by the current ship, the current deployment of the same ship, Freedom, over to Singapore. And every time we send these ships forward is an experiment and an opportunity to make the ships better in an operational environment. So what we have a process of gradual improvement that's leading to capabilities in the field rather than in the laboratory. And each of the ships, while the original ship exceeded its cost targets, the current ships are being built for approximately a quarter of what the next DDG-51 ship that the Navy's ordered will cost.
Okay. Follow-up question on that.
Certainly.
But so you mentioned new technologies, advanced capabilities, upgrades, improvements, all these key terms. But what other modules, what capabilities does this LCS have to offer the Navy?
I'm glad you asked. Thank you. When designing the littoral combat ship, we identified 3 key shortfalls in future littoral capabilities that we'd like to address. First of all, we've currently got a good fleet of mine countermeasure ships. The ships are focused solely on mine countermeasures and don't have the robust defensive capabilities that the littoral combat ship has. So they always require escorts to perform their mission, whereas LCS is somewhat of a self-escorting minesweep on that mission. We also have right now we've got very large, very capable destroyers performing surface warfare, specifically maritime interdiction operations. Whereas if we do the same ship or we do the same mission with a ship costing, again, about a quarter of what they cost, we can free up those destroyers for the high-end missions that they're required for. And finally, the anti-submarine warfare mission. We've got a ship that combines a helicopter hangar and a towed array sonar. Whereas, with your standard destroyer, you've got a lot of capability, but you typically have one or the other. And again, at a quarter of the cost, and with an optimization for performing those missions in the littoral or shallow water environment. Does that answer your question, sir? Sir?
Don Gray from the local VFW. Here with my wife Margie. She's in the Rotary Club. How are your sailors going to sleep on this ship since there's so few of them? They have their own rooms?
They've got their rooms in comparison with the berthings on most of our ships are much more like officer staterooms than the typical enlisted quarters. Our rooms sleep anywhere from 2 to 8 members, whereas the typical berthing on a destroyer would house about 50 or 60. What we've seen with previous ships of the class is that not only promotes a higher standard of living or comfort, but also promotes a greater sense of ownership, shared responsibility, and camaraderie among the members of that small berthing area.
So, do you have males and females? Just males?
We've got both male and female sailors, and that's another area where I think LCS has had a bit of an advantage. Our next smallest class of ship, the frigate, typically has a fully integrated boardroom or officer's mess, but finds difficulty with integrating the enlisted crew because there are only 3 berthings of approximately 50 or 60 personnel, and it's impossible, frankly, to change out 50 or 60 crew members at the same time while maintaining the same level of training and esprit de corps. With us having 2 to 8 people per stateroom, we can interchange. If we get a female sailor, we can fairly easily make a move around and accommodate any blend of male and female sailors while still keeping them in separate berthing quarters.
Thank you.
Thank you.